Hey everyone, Sarah here, coming to you from day 3 of the World Parkinson Congress. I can't believe it's already day 3, and in this video I'm going to recap for you as quickly and succinctly as I can everything that I learned in the workshops from all the speakers, and I even attended a few poster sessions today. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet and just give you the high impact, actionable items that you can use and implement in your day, no matter where in the world you are. So to make this a little bit easier for you, just a reminder, you can always check the description box below this video, and there will be topics listed out that I'll cover. And if you want to skip ahead to that specific topic, you'll see a timestamp in front of that topic, and you can just click on it and you'll jump right to the part of the video that you're interested in, so you don't have to watch the entire thing. So if you're watching, please do give me a thumbs up here, share this with anybody you think is valuable, and if at any point along the way I reference any resources, they're going to be in the description box, or if you have more questions, put them in the comments and we'll make sure to give you an answer to the best of our ability. So easy enough, let's dive in. So this morning I started and saw part of a session about genome sequencing in Parkinson's, and I promise not to get too technical here, honestly, because I can't. This is a topic that is so in-depth, so extensive, and there's a lot that is coming out in the research about which genome markers are linked to which specific symptoms and progression and outcomes. But nothing is hard and fast quite yet, and honestly, if you don't know your genome, then it really doesn't help you that much. But you may be watching this wondering if you should be getting your genome sequenced and if that would be helpful for you in managing your Parkinson's. And someone asked this question of the panel today: should everyone get their genome sequenced? And the researchers and the professionals that were up on stage said not necessarily. You know, there is some benefit to knowing which genetic markers you have, because there are treatments that are coming out that are tailored to kind of, or there are clinical trials, maybe not implemented in the clinic, that, you know, knowing your genetic profile might help you individualize and personalize your treatment approach. We're not quite there yet, and you know, the mindset was you can get your genetic makeup kind of looked at if you think knowing it will be good for you. It's an individual decision. There are still questions about keeping your information private, and also knowing everything about your genome, about what's in your genes, can be a blessing and a curse. You know, there could be something in there that you have a genetic marker for, something really negative. Let's say you're prone to dementia, but just because you have that marker doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to express itself as symptoms. You know, I think they, pardon if this statistic is a bit off, but they said, you know, as far as the expression in your symptoms, it may be 30% genetic and then 70% other things like environmental factors and what you've been through in your life. So it's an individual decision at this point. There's no recommendation that everyone should have their genome sequenced at this point in time. So that's the update that I found on genome sequencing and Parkinson's. If you know more about it, let me know in the comment section below. Next topic was actually one that I went to a poster session. So at the WPC, they ask everyone from around the globe to submit posters, and it can be people diagnosed with Parkinson's, researchers, physiotherapists, anyone can submit a poster. And someone from our community named McFarlane submitted 4 posters actually, and 2 of them had to do with his running career. So this next topic is about running and Parkinson's, and we have a lot of runners in our community, so if you are a runner and maybe you've seen your performance start to decline, or you're wondering if you should continue to run, I wanted to just share Ian's story because he doesn't really have a blog and he's not out there a lot with his story, and I thought it was really motivational, and I'll you know, keep it brief. But Ian has always been a runner, and he used to run, I think he said 20K or something extremely long, and he noticed before he was diagnosed that he started to not be able to keep up with his running buddies, and he started to decline. And it was from that initial symptom that he was able to go to his neurologist and get diagnosed with Parkinson's later. So long story short, is he started taking levodopa medication, and that bumped him back up to 60% of what he wanted to be able to do. And he thought that potentially he might just not be able to ever get back to his pre-Parkinson's pace. But over time, and his posters expressed this, was over time he just started looking for strategies and tools and resources to help him start shaving some time back off of his running, mile. And he started with levodopa, as I said, and then he went to see a physical therapist, and he kept adding in all these different modalities. So he, started doing boxing, and he started, I'm forgetting a really big modality, but he essentially just started experimenting with exercise and physical therapy, and he was able to get back to the point where his post-diagnosis time was the same as his pre-diagnosis time, and he does everything that you can possibly imagine as far as exercise is concerned, and it's a little bit of everything. And so he is really motivational. He's in our online, the Invigorated community, our Facebook group, if you want to pop in there and just search for Ian. He doesn't have a website. I don't feel comfortable giving his email out here on YouTube, but you can go into our Invigorated community and search him out, or if the WPC publishes the poster sessions, you may be able to get a copy of that. But I just wanted to encourage you, if you're a runner in Parkinson's, there are a lot of different strategies that you can use to improve your running time, and you don't have to necessarily give up running or think that you won't be able to run the way that you wanted to. Now, Parkinson's is a progressive disease, so it's not that you're going to be able to run the way you want forever, but you don't have to stop running, and you can actually improve your running time even with the diagnosis of Parkinson's. So it was great chatting with Ian. I had a really great time hearing about his story, and I wanted to share it with you, and I've tried to convince him to put it into a blog to share with you all, and if that happens, I'll make sure to let you know. So on to our next topic, which was living well with Parkinson's. And I attended this session with maybe 4 or 5 different people who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and they talked about their secrets to living well with Parkinson's. And one of the most impressive ones, I'm going to find her name here in my notes. You guys may know her. She's Japanese, Yoshiko Okanda. She was diagnosed at age 24, and she's 67 now, so she's 43 years post-diagnosis. And her main recommendation for people who are trying to live well decades into their Parkinson's diagnosis, or even just years, is don't give up. That was her number one thing, was no matter what obstacles you come in contact with, which she's come in contact with a lot of obstacles, dyskinesia, freezing of gait, blood pressure. Every time she came up to this obstacle, she tried to find answers and solutions, and she didn't just say, oh, it's Parkinson's and I have to give up doing what I love, like walking with her poles. She uses levodopa. She started early on. I actually think she didn't start levodopa until maybe 10 years into her diagnosis, but she 47 years into her 43 years post-diagnosis, she's taking 300 milligrams a day of levodopa. She's pole walking. She's making sure to prioritize her exercise and doing her rehabilitation. Those are her main things. But she says just don't give up and try and find solutions whenever you come to them. The next woman that spoke was Omotola Thomas, which I ended up doing an interview with her today on a Facebook Live broadcast, so I'll get to that in a little bit. But Omotola, as you all know, is an amazing spirit. If you don't know of Omotola, she founded Parkinstand, and she's had symptoms since 2010 and was diagnosed at age 35. And she talks about her journey, but her main message was to look at Parkinson's as this way to practice perseverance, really. And she said that becoming positive and having that, continuous attitude to keep going is a muscle that needs to be strengthened. It's not that some people have it and some people don't, because she's not always positive, but she chooses to strengthen that muscle where when she gets down, she takes a deep breath, acknowledges her emotions, and also says, what's next? How do I get back on the wagon? How do I find solutions? How do I, practice contracting my positive, relentless pursuit of health, no matter how I feel. It's a muscle that you have to keep contracting. So Omotola is wonderful, and I'll get to our interview, but if you're a Facebook page follower, she has an interview over there on our Facebook page where she talks a little bit more about what she was doing at the WPC and more about her story. The next woman that was talking about or sharing her secrets to living well is Elisabeth Ildal. I don't follow her. She was new to me, but she has a website, which I'll link in the description below. But her message was, we are not an appendix to Parkinson's. Parkinson's is an appendix to us. So just go out there, live your life as best you can. Parkinson's is going to follow along, but you can't be paralyzed by the fear of not knowing what's in your future, or even paralyzed in inaction mode, stuck in inaction mode, waiting for the cure to come about, or waiting for that golden answer, that golden treatment to come out, because it's not going to. There is a hodgepodge of things that can help you live well, and do those things and live your life and enjoy the ride was her main message. And she was very energetic, and I really enjoyed listening to her. And if you want to follow any of these people, I'm going to put their websites in the description below so you can check them out. Elisabeth also is still working, and I think she's in politics. She ran for office, got elected as someone diagnosed with Parkinson, so she's rocking it. And then finally, on the same panel, talking about living well with Parkinson's, was Benjamin Stecher. He has a blog. He's a WPC blogger called the Tomorrow Edition. I highly recommend it. Very scientifically minded, and also a philosopher at heart. So it's this great combination of philosophy and science. I really love his blog. Really, really smart guy. Also very sweet, very kind. So his main message was talking a lot about not waiting for science to catch up and not waiting for science to give us an answer and a cure. Do what you can today. But he, his quote was from Gandalf at the end. It said, "All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us." And so I think his main message was, you have this time that's given to you today. You're watching this video. Take advantage of having that time, and don't waste it waiting for the golden answer, because even when we do find a cure, it's going to be multifaceted, and it's going to come out in pieces, and we can't wait to take action until that time. So really motivational people. I really enjoyed their talks, and we're always looking for those people to inspire us. And if you ever need inspiration, seeking out any of those people is a really great place to start. Okay, and then I attended pain and Parkinson's disease as my next topic. And to be honest, this lecture fell a little short for me. I really wanted to hear more actionable recommendations from the speakers as far as what someone diagnosed with Parkinson's could do. It ended up being a lot about diagnostics and a lot about, as a healthcare provider, mostly as a physician, what are the methods of pain and where does pain come from, and also like what medications and how to assess pain. There wasn't a lot of actionable items, but what I did hear was, pain can appear at any time during the disease or be present before the disease. It can precede the disease. That's the word I'm looking for. It can happen in any body part. Shoulders really common, upper body, lower body, the trunk. But she said, the speaker said that there are unusual pain syndromes that make up about 6% of patients where the pain is in the head, the face, the pharynx, the abdomen, the pelvis, the rectum, or the genitalia. So if you feel like you have pain in weird places, you may be in the 6% that have this kind of strange pain placement that you should be talking with your physician about, because they may be able to help you tailor your plan a little bit differently than someone who just has general body soreness. So they did talk about the different types of pain in Parkinson's, and there's actually a link to a blog post that a physician wrote for the Invigorate blog that's below this video, that talks about the 5 different types of pain in Parkinson's that she sees, and also actionable strategies like different massage techniques or physical therapy. That's in that blog, and that's going to be really actionable for you. I'm going to link it in the description below. So go check that out if you're having issues with pain. But aside from stretching to help with muscle stiffness and making sure you're moving to help with rigidity, the other thing that one of the speakers talked about was that pain is typically higher during off stages and lower in on stages. So his big emphasis was, if your medications aren't optimized to keep you in this on state, then you might be missing an opportunity to control your pain. Because if you're always in off stages, which just means that you don't have enough levodopa to put you in an optimized motor state or functioning state to kind of keep your symptoms steady. Off state usually comes when your medications have worn out, and that's when pain can be the highest. It's also when dystonia can be high, when your rigidity and your bradykinesia and all of your symptoms can be really high. And so if you're having a lot of dyskinesia, or if you're having a lot of dystonia and rigidity and stiffness, your pain is going to come along with that. So optimize your medications, of course, and then use some of the strategies from the blog post to help you with your pain. That is the over-under of the pain talk that I attended. I actually left a little early because it was just a little dry for me. And also I don't prescribe medications as part of my job. So all right, let's see. Our next 3 topics had to do with non-motor symptoms and managing these kind of little talked about non-motor symptoms, but that actually cause really big problems. So the first non-motor symptom that we talked about was sexual dysfunction in Parkinson's. And the thing that I want to say about all 3 of these, and I'll reiterate when I talk later about bladder dysfunction and orthostatic hypotension, is that sexual dysfunction, bladder dysfunction, and orthostatic hypotension are going to be symptoms that have to be managed with a multidisciplinary approach. So when you go see your movement disorder specialist or your neurologist, you need to be talking to them about any sexual dysfunction you're experiencing that's disrupting your life, any bladder dysfunction that's disrupting your life, and anytime you feel dizzy or woozy or pass out or fall. You need to be talking to your neurologist about all of those things. They're waiting for you. They shouldn't wait for you. They should ask you about dysfunctions like that. But they might not, and it is appropriate to reach out to them and say, we're having trouble with, compulsive sexuality, or, our sexual drives aren't matching up, or, erectile dysfunction, arousal, overactive bladder, passing out after eating, all of these things. Like, you should be talking to your physician because they won't know unless you tell them. And oftentimes people don't know who to talk to about some of this stuff. So, but also your neurologist is going to have to pair up with, in sexual dysfunction, for example, potentially a sex therapist to help you function. Maybe even a urologist if some of your sexual dysfunction problems are coming from bladder dysfunction. So with sexual dysfunction specifically, this woman that spoke was incredibly knowledgeable, but she went very fast. So I pulled out what I could, and I tried to take some of the quick hitters. So something that she did mention as far as sexual dysfunction is concerned is that most male patients with Parkinson's consider erectile dysfunction to be the most distressing of their various disabilities imposed by Parkinson's. So if that's you, you don't have to raise your hand, but this is a common issue, and maybe you never had problems with ED before or arousal, but there are some strategies that I'll list now, and you should also be talking to your neurologist about these before you make any big changes, by the way. But this woman recommended testosterone. You might have a testosterone deficiency, and that could be looked at and tested for, and you may be able to treat that testosterone deficiency to improve your drive or your arousal. There are things called PDE5 inhibitors that your physician may consider. Also, sex counseling, helping you to use the aids, helping you with the use of aids or pleasure-oriented outer course instead of goal-oriented inner course. And I actually went to at the Movement Disorder Conference in Vancouver, I believe. I went to a workshop talking about sexual dysfunction, and sex kind of changes. Your aim of sex might change over time, and it doesn't always have to be about intercourse. It doesn't always have to be about sex. Your sex life can be just about sensuality and connection and pleasure, and it doesn't have to always be about sex. So a sex therapist can help you, and doing sex counseling can help improve the communication between you and your partner, also explore opportunities for connection that don't include, that goal-oriented intercourse. She also recommended looking at prostaglandins or vacuum devices to help with arousal. Let's see. She did give a list of medications that can cause adverse sexual consequences. Antidepressants were on there, things like TCAs, SSRIs, or SNRIs can actually cause sexual dysfunction, some type of sexual dysfunction. So if you're on those and you're having issues, talk to your physician. Also, benzodiazepines, risperidone and clozapine seem to have a higher rate of sexual dysfunction. And then, if you have urological dysfunction, which we'll talk about in a second, that can also impact your sexual function. So if you are on any of those and you're experiencing sexual dysfunction, talk to your physician. And finally, there was this idea of, after Parkinson's symptoms kind of set in, but before you're on medication, you may, as a person with Parkinson's, have a decreased sexual drive, and that's not uncommon. And sometimes when you start back on levodopa medication, your sex drive can increase again. And at that point, if your sex drive is increasing, but it doesn't quite match the sex drive of your partner, that's something called sexual desire discrepancy between two partners. And it doesn't just happen in Parkinson's; it can happen with any couple, but sometimes the partner that now has the lower drive is the caregiver, and they're stressed and they feel burdened and burnt out, and they don't want to participate because they're not in the mood. And so, it's important to communicate, and bringing in a therapist, a sex counselor, in combination with some of these other, pharmacological interventions, if that's the case, can be really effective, because, that's a big part of everyone's life, and it's important to kind of have those goals filled as well. So that brings me to the next topic, which is bladder dysfunction in Parkinson's. And as I said in the section above, if you didn't watch that, bladder dysfunction is best managed with a multidisciplinary approach. So you should be talking to your neurologist about it, your movement disorder specialist, and also they should be working with a urologist to help you optimize, and maybe even, pharmacological cross points, and maybe even a pelvic health physical therapist could help with pelvic dysfunction or with bladder dysfunction. So honestly, this one was very research oriented, and I didn't get a lot of actionable items from this presentation, but I wanted to let you guys know that overactive bladder can be caused because of a dysfunction due to Parkinson's, and it's more of like a overactive bladder dysfunction that's caused by brain circuitry, and that can be the case in Parkinson's. So talk to your physician about overactive bladder. If you're having trouble getting to the bathroom, there may be some reasons why you have incontinence that have nothing to do with an overactive bladder. It could be stress. It could be, the fact that you physically can't get to the toilet in time, and that has nothing to do with your ability to hold your bladder, but you're physically not able to get to the bathroom, and that might be more of a problem to tackle with a physical therapist. And it all starts with having a conversation with your physician. So please have that conversation. I wish I had more tips to offer you, helpful wise, from that session. There wasn't a lot in there, unfortunately. Which brings me to the next topic, which is orthostatic hypotension in Parkinson's disease. This was a really great talk, and it was by Stuart Isaacson from Florida. Really fantastic talk. So there's orthostatic hypotension, which is when you stand up from a chair, your blood pressure drops, and a normal response is your body reacts to squeeze your vessels to pump blood back up to your brain. It also changes your heart rate so that you can usually increases your heart rate so you can pump more blood up to your brain and you don't get dizzy. But if you have orthostatic, which just means change of position, hypotension, and your blood pressure drops when you stand up, then there are some different approaches to use. There's the kind of normal variety orthostatic hypotension, which can be tackled with hydration and potentially changing your medication profile, taking away things that maybe drop your blood pressure unnecessarily. And then there's this other type of orthostatic hypotension, which has more to do with changes in your neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine, and that's called neurogenic orthostatic hypotension. And they may feel the same in some regards, but what's going on in your body is a bit different. So why that matters to you is if you're having issues with standing and feeling dizzy, the very first line of approach is to treat it like it's garden variety orthostatic hypotension. So you need to be hydrated first and foremost. I'm going to put an article down below about how to stay hydrated with Parkinson's, but staying hydrated, drinking water, adding some sodium to your water, which was talked about in the session today. I typically recommend for 1 liter of water, which I think is about 33 ounces. For 1 liter of water, you want to put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt. 1/4 of a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt. Mix it all together and drink it. And that can help raise your blood pressure and decrease your dehydration. So he did talk about taking a bolus of water, which is about 12 ounces of water, chugging it all together, add some sodium in there, and within 2 minutes after you drink a high volume of water like that, let's see what my water bottle is. This is 25 ounces. So, maybe like half of this. If you drink half of it, if you can, and wait a few minutes, your body will have a reflex that will raise your blood pressure about 10 points so that you can maybe get up and move. Some other recommendations he had was when you stand up, squeeze your calves and squeeze your bum to push that blood back up to your head. He also talked about not standing up and just going right away. Stand up and give your body a second to adjust before you start walking. And making sure that you know of medications that may be lowering your blood pressure and talking to your doctor about adjusting the timing. So Parkinson's medications, levodopa, can lower your blood pressure. And if you're taking medications on top of that to lower your blood pressure because you have hypertension, then you may be bottoming yourself out. And it's hard to know with a one-time blood pressure measurement at your neurologist's office. So you want to make sure that you're taking a blood pressure diary if you can. And I'll see if I can find one to put in the resources below. But taking it in the morning before you get up, taking it, after breakfast, which is after a meal, your blood pressure has a tendency to dip. So, first thing in the morning, get up, take your blood pressure after a meal, after lunch, after dinner, maybe when you're symptomatic throughout the day, if you're having any issues feeling dizzy, and then at night, before, when you're sitting or going to bed. Consistently taking your blood pressure and your heart rate in those moments can give you an idea of what's happening with your blood pressure. And so that's a good thing to do. Take that for 3-4 days and take it to your neurologist and let him know what your symptoms are, what you've tried, like hydration and, squeezing your calves and all that stuff, and that you have this pattern, and he may be able to help you decide if it's garden variety orthostatic hypotension or if it's this neurogenic orthostatic hypotension. Now, if you're out there and you're already diagnosed with neurogenic orthostatic hypotension, it's NOH for short. If you're already diagnosed with NOH, then that means that your blood pressure is typically going to be the highest when you're laying down. Then you're going to sit up and it's going to drop a little bit, and then you're going to stand up and it's going to drop even more, and your body's not going to be able to increase your blood pressure again once you've been standing. It kind of loses its ability to do that on its own, and that can make you feel like when you stand up you're dizzy, and when you walk you still get dizzy, and when you lay down, when you sit down or lay down, that's when you feel the best, because that's when your blood pressure actually raises back up. So you may be kind of combating this neurogenic orthostatic hypotension mess, and hydration is still really important. If your blood pressure is really high at night, they always recommend, if you haven't heard of this yet, always recommend elevating the head of your bed up 30 degrees so that you sleep with your head elevated. And that helps you regulate your blood pressure at night. You probably won't get up to go to the bathroom as much in the night. And that can be like a really, really helpful tip. Elevate the head of your bed and stay hydrated. Sometimes even wearing some compression garments over your stomach to help keep your blood pressure up while you're walking is a really great idea. And revisiting your medications, obviously, and that's a task for your neurologist that I'm not going to try and tackle today, but know that you should be having an ongoing conversation about medication timing and what types of medications you should be taking with your blood pressure profile. So, all of that being said, those were the sessions I attended today. Like I said, I did an interview with Omotola Thomas, who is just an incredible individual. She talked about being a woman with Parkinson's, being an African-American woman with Parkinson's. She's lived in 4 countries, so she's had all this different experience about which healthcare systems handle Parkinson's which way, and she's just a bright light, and I highly, highly encourage you to watch that interview. It's over on invigoratept.com/Facebook. That's where you can find our Facebook page, and if you're watching this kind of further in the future, just go over to videos and click on videos, and you'll be able to find our video interview there. So that is it from me. Tomorrow is day 4, so we will be back with day 4 recap tomorrow. If you missed day 2 or 1's recap, I'm gonna scoot over. I'm gonna put them right here so you can watch the recap from previous days, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you get notified of when the next video gets put up. So if you enjoyed this video, first and foremost, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. It makes staying after the conference later, sitting in the halls by myself, totally worth it. I am so honored to be here with you on your journey, even if you're sitting in your living room and I'm in Kyoto. I'm here for you, and I'm so glad you tuned in. So give it a like, let me know you watched in the comment section below, and share it with someone that you think may benefit. And I'll be back tomorrow for the 4th and final day of the World Parkinson Congress here in Kyoto. And until then, keep moving, and I'm sending you lots and lots of big hugs. All right, bye.